Buongiorno! Today I'm going to be talking about my favorite books of 2019. So I know this is a little late, but I like doing my 2019 favorite reads video after the year is over because you never know, the last book you read in the year might just become a new favorite. And some of the books that I read towards the end of the year were actually some of my favorites ever, so I guess it's a good thing that I waited to do this video. I read 155 books in 2019. I am in awe, in shock. I have no idea how I did that. This is the best reading year I've ever had in my life, like ever. Like I've always wanted to hit 100 books. That's always been a goal of mine for Goodreads, but I've never been able to accomplish it. So I just kind of gave up after a while. Actually, my goal for this year was 75 books, which I know I can complete. And then I hit 75, so then I increased it to 100, and then I hit 100, and then I hit 155. Like, I am in awe. Like, I can't believe it. I read so many books this year, so many. This was really hard narrowing it down to my top 10 and then a couple of honorable mentions. It was really hard. One thing I will say, I did read a lot of graphic novels this year, which I'm really happy about. A few years ago, my TBR jar challenge was to read more graphic novels, and I read 32 graphic novels this year, and I also read more adult this year as well. It was also one of my TBR jar challenges. I read 24 adult books this year, which is amazing. Obviously, I still read majority YA. I read 60 YA books and a couple middle grade, which is awesome too. I don't read a whole lot of middle grade, so that was awesome. I had an amazing reading year, so let's jump into it. I'm gonna start with some honorable mentions. Heartstopper by Alice Oseman. This is on Tapas, and I read a lot of it on Tapas, and I really love this book so much. It just made me really, really happy, and I really, really love it. So definitely honorable mention. It didn't make my top 10. It was really close. I just loved Heartstopper so much. And another like LGBT comic that I really, really loved, which I can't own, but I'm so excited because the author just announced that they're going to be publishing the book in America, and I'm so excited. Always Human by Walking North, I guess their username is. This is a webtoon, and it's an LGBT webtoon. I loved it so much. I finished it in, I think, February or March. It's completely free on webtoon, so you can read it all. The music is amazing. The story is just really wonderful. It's basically like a female-female love story that takes place in like a sci-fi futuristic world. It's just so sweet and wonderful, and I can't wait for the comic to come out so I can buy my own copy and put it on next to Heartstopper. I loved both of these comics so much. They were absolutely beautiful and made me so happy. Definitely an honorable mention. And this is an honorable mention because it's not a new book, but the Princess Diaries series by Meg Cabell. So I reread the entirety of the Princess Diaries series in 2019, and I had so much fun revisiting this series. I grew up with the Princess Diaries series. Like, it means so much to me. Like, I watched the movies so many times as a child, and when I got older, I read all of the books, and I loved them so much. So it was just so fun revisiting the Princess Diaries series now that I'm older. And now that I'm older, I do see a lot of issues with the Princess Diaries series. It's definitely not perfect, but I just love it so much. It was so fun, and I had a great time listening to them. I listened to majority of them on audiobook, but I did read a few of them physically. I love the Princess Diaries series so much, and it will always be a special series dear to my heart. So I had so much fun rereading it this year. It definitely would have made my favorites if it was a new series, but it's not. Top 10 books of 2019. So this is not in any particular order except for the last 3 books. Those are the top 3 books are by far like the best books ever I read this year. The other books are just in random order. Number 10 is Criers War by Nina Valaria. I'm definitely making this number 10 because it's like the last book I read basically in the year. I loved Criers War so much. I did a whole video about it. I met the author. I did a reading vlog of me reading this. I love this so much. So I'm gonna leave it up above if you want to go watch it. Criers War is just so well written, so well crafted. This is one of the best books I've ever read in my life ever. It's just, I loved it so much. I love the characters, I love the writing, I love the world. Like, everything about this is just utter perfection. I cannot believe that this is a debut novel because it's so good. So good. Definitely definitely one of my favorite books, and I cannot wait for book 2 next year. Like, I need it now. I pretty much already said everything about this book in the reading vlog, so if you want to know more of my thoughts on Criers War, definitely go check out that reading vlog. I literally rambled about it for over 10 minutes of how much I love the Criers War. It's so good. It's so good. If you haven't read Criers War yet, what are you doing? You need to read it. Even listen to the audiobook. It's pretty good. The audiobook is really awesome too if you don't have time to read it physically. Highly, highly recommend. Afterlife of Holly Chase by Cynthia Han. Now this was a bit of a surprise. So I've been recommended this book from Emma Books like so many times. She always raves about how much she loves this book, and I loved it so much. I read it in December for Christmas because it's a Christmas Carol retelling. Oh my god, I loved it so much. I read it back to back. Like as soon as I finished it, I needed to re-listen to it again. Oh my god. Amazing. I just love this take on the Christmas Carol. I actually think this retelling of the Christmas Carol is so much better than the actual Christmas Carol. So unique and original. Like I've never read anything like this. And I know it's a retelling, but you wouldn't really know that because of how unique and original this book is. The world and the plot and everything about this is just so cool and original. And even though it is a retelling of something else, it builds so much on that original story and adds so much to it that you wouldn't even think it's a retelling unless you were told. It's going to be one of my favorite books of all time and definitely favorite Christmas books. This is definitely one I'm going to be rereading for many more Christmases ahead. Absolutely adored it. 5 out of 5 stars. I don't have the book, but this kind of counts. On the Come Up by Angie Thomas. On the Come Up, I listened to the audiobook for this and oh my god, it was amazing. I love how On the Come Up deals with Brie who wants to be a rapper, and the audiobook like actually has the narrator rapping certain parts. This was amazing. Like The Hate You Give was already amazing and it was on my favorite books of the year when it came out. And of course On the Come Up had to be on this list as well because it was even better than The Hate You Give, which I didn't think was possible. So well written, tackled so many important topics. Angie Thomas has now become like an auto-read, auto-buy author for me. Like she's amazing and I cannot wait to read anything else she writes. Verse 7, I think I'm on. The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. So this book was a bit of a catalyst for me because a lot of people really loved this book, and I decided to give it a shot for the Asian readathon and also the autistic readathon. The main character is autistic and the love interest is Vietnamese, so it counts for both. And I love this one so much. It was amazing. Definitely one of the best romance books I ever read. Like, yeah, I did have a few issues for this book, but the reason this book is on this list is because it made me fall in love with the adult romance genre. Because of this book, I started seeking out more adult romance books and more adult books in general. So even though I did have some issues with this book and it might not be my favorite book of all time, I had a lot of fun reading this book, and it was a huge push for me to read more adult romance and really fall in love with the genre. So that's why this is on this list, but I highly recommend it if you love adult romance. This is definitely a really cute one and definitely one of the best ones I read. And I highly recommend it. I did have a few issues because I hate the miscommunication trope. Overall, I really loved it and I highly recommend it. For 6, Miss Marvel Volume 6, Civil War. So I actually started the Miss Marvel series in 2018 and I had the best time reading all the Miss Marvel comics, but this one was absolutely amazing. I related so much to Kamala Khan in this one. This was definitely the best one. I loved it so much, and every time I think about Miss Marvel, I always think about this installment because it was just amazing. I cannot wait to read more of the Miss Marvel comics, and they're just incredible. If you love comics and you haven't read Miss Marvel yet, what are you doing? She's the first Muslim superhero and she's Pakistani. Like, the representation is amazing, and not only that, it's just a great story. I know that she's getting a new series, but the original writers of Miss Marvel are not going to be in that series, so I'm a little scared for the new series, but we'll see. Hopefully I like it. Number 4, I think? Or is it 5? No, it's 5. With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. Last year, The Poet X was on my top reads of the year, and this one was even better than The Poet X. I didn't think she could top herself, but she did. She did. I loved following Amani's story. I related so much to Amani, and I love this. I love this book so much. It's so well written. I realized that this book actually had like slight magical realism elements, I didn't even realize that while reading and also listening to the audiobook, because the audiobook is amazing and also narrated by Elizabeth. Characters that she creates are so real and wonderful. There's also like a Spain trip in this book. I absolutely loved it. So good. So good. I cannot wait to read anything more and everything else by Elizabeth Acevedo. Her next book is called Clap While You Land. I barely know what it's about, and honestly, I don't care. Every single book she's come out with has been amazing, and I will read anything by her at this point. Number 4, Not the Girls You're Looking For by Amina May Safi. So while I did have some issues with this book, and I don't think it's perfect by any means, I saw so much of myself in Lulu. This is one of the books that I just felt so represented by. I related so hard to Lulu, and so many aspects of this book just hit so close to home for me in the best way. It fueled my soul. I loved it so much. It meant a lot to me, and it's definitely going to be one of my favorite books ever of all time. I loved it so much. I wait to read everything else by Amina May Safi. Also, Amina May Safi is just amazing. I follow her on Instagram. I've also seen her in person. She's the most wonderful person ever. I love her, and I just love this book too by her. We're getting into the top 3 books of the year, which are the best books I read. Number 3 is Don't Date Rosa Santos by Nina Moreno. Oh my god, this book hit me so hard. I just felt so represented by Rosa as well. I felt so much of myself in Rosa. I just related so hard to her. This book just fueled my soul. I loved it so much. It's so well written. It's so amazing. The characters are amazing. Everything about this book is just utter perfection. It hit me so hard in the feels. It's an emotional roller coaster. So good. As soon as I finished this book, I knew I needed to own a copy of it. I listened to the audiobook and it was incredible. And I know I'm probably going to be reading this book from time to time. I just loved it so much. It meant the world to me, and it's definitely going to go down as one of my favorite books of the year ever. Number 2 is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. This was not a lot of people's favorites of the year for good reason. This book was so beautiful. It made me so happy, and also just I felt so represented by this book as well. It shows Alex, who realizes he's bisexual a lot later in life. He's like, I think 23 or 24 in this book, and he realizes he's bisexual. It's a romance between the first son of the first female president of the United States and the Prince of Wales. It's absolutely beautiful. Not only is this such a beautiful love story, it also tackles the politics of America and also some British things as well. It meant so much to me. This book just fueled my soul. It made me so happy. It made my heart so happy. I have 2 copies of it now. I love it so much. Cannot wait to read Casey McQuiston's next book, which is going to be a female-female relationship that has time travel involved. Like, oh my god, I am hyped. I need it. And the number 1 best book of the year. I mean, I'm sure you can guess this if you've been watching my videos, or if you know me in person. This is no surprise. The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So a lot of people actually read this in 2018, but I didn't get to it till January of 2019, and it meant so much to me. I've read already this book twice, so that I will remember this book forever, and I'll be rereading this book forever. It meant so much to me. It was so well written, so well crafted, and even though I read this in the beginning of the year, I still think about this book and this story and these characters all the time. It's already been a year, and they're still so real to me. This book is still so real to me, and I still think about it all the time. Only say my favorite book ever was Jane Eyre, but now The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo has become my favorite book ever as well. So now my favorite books ever are The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and Jane Eyre. While Evelyn Hugo was my favorite book of the year, I also just want to say that Taylor Jenkins Reid was, in general, which is my favorite author and read of the year. I also read Daisy Jones and the Six, which I loved, and it's also one of my favorite books of all time as well, but I didn't love it as much as Evelyn Hugo. I still really love this and 5-starred it, and the audiobook is incredible, but it didn't mean as much to me as The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo was. I also read the majority of her backlist. I have not read her first book. I really loved Maybe in Another Life. That book was incredible. After I didn't expect to love that book because it's about a marriage falling apart and trying to get back on track, but it hit me so hard. I loved that one. I also really loved When True Loves. I had the best time reading all of Taylor Jenkins Reid's books this year. I didn't get to Forever Interrupted, but that's definitely one I want to read in the new year. Taylor Jenkins Reid easily became one of my all-time favorite authors now, and she's definitely going to be an auto-buy author for me. I loved all of her books, and Evelyn Hugo meant the world to me and will always mean the world to me. I'm so excited for the adaptation and also scared because freeform. This book doesn't work for everybody, but it worked for me. It was perfect and I loved it and I love everything about it so much. What were your favorite books of the year? Let me know. A lot of people's favorite lists were Evelyn Hugo and Red, White, and Royal Blue, so maybe this comes as no surprise to you. Comment down below your favorite books of the year. My social media links are all down below. My Twitter, my Bookstube, my Goodreads. Arrivederci!